Caleb Rourke stepped between Simone Barrett and the public complaint board before she finished reading the second line. The board stood beside a parking meter outside Juniper Cup. One corner had curled away from the metal frame. The printed QR code had been scratched until 3 black squares were missing. "What are you collecting?" Simone lowered her coffee cup. "Public information." 2 white men stood beside a pickup truck several yards away, filming Main Street with their phones. Caleb had passed them without stopping. He looked at Simone's navy coat, worn leather tote, and flat shoes. Then he pointed toward the curb. "Move away from the patrol vehicle." A full parking space separated her from the rear bumper. Simone moved 1 step anyway. She had come to Ashford because 14 complaints described the same pattern. They described a question without a stated reason, a command that changed when obeyed, and a search justified only after nothing illegal was found. Caleb followed her. "Badge number, please." He reached across her. His gloved hand struck the side of her paper cup. The lid separated. Coffee spread across the front of her coat and ran from one cuff onto the sidewalk. Caleb looked at the stain. That happens when people ignore simple instructions. Simone placed the damaged cup beside the parking meter. She removed a folded handkerchief from her tote and pressed it against the fabric. Inside Juniper Cup, manager Leah Moreno stopped beside the register. The receipt printer continued feeding a narrow strip of paper. Simone's order remained at the top. Coffee. Paid in full. 12 minutes earlier. Leah opened the door. She was standing there reading the sign. Caleb turned his shoulders toward her. "This is an active encounter." She didn't do anything. "The sidewalk permit for your tables comes up for review next month, doesn't it?" Leah's hand stayed on the door handle. She did not return inside, but she did not take another step. Caleb faced Simone again and requested identification. She told him which pocket held her wallet. She reached for it. He took the Georgia driver's license and held it beside his mobile terminal. The screen cleared her name and address. He kept the card. What brings someone from Atlanta to Ashford alone? Travel within Georgia doesn't require an explanation. Caleb placed the license on the wet concrete beside the ruined cup. Simone looked at it. "You can pick it up." She bent, wiped the plastic with the dry edge of her handkerchief, and returned it to her wallet. She did not ask him to apologize. A delivery driver named Miles Avery had stopped near the corner with a grocery bag under one arm. His phone remained chest high. Deputy Owen Maddox noticed it, but said nothing. Caleb pointed at Simone's tote. "Open the bag." "Am I being detained?" "This will go faster if you cooperate." "What offense are you investigating?" Caleb shifted his weight and looked toward Owen. Simone kept both hands visible. "Are you requesting consent or giving an order?" Caleb reached for the strap. Simone did not pull away. The tote slid from her shoulder. He turned it upside down over the sidewalk. A glasses case struck the concrete. A prescription bottle rolled beneath the edge of a cafe chair. A notebook opened against the curb. Her wallet, folded umbrella, medication list, and paper calendar landed beside the coffee stain. Caleb nudged the notebook with his boot. "Nobody touches anything, officer safety." Owen looked at Simone's empty hands. Caleb had not mentioned a weapon. The 2 men beside the pickup continued filming without being searched. Chief Martin Voss arrived while Simone's belongings were still on the ground. Leah tried to explain what she had seen. Martin raised one finger without turning toward her. "My officer is handling it." Simone pointed to the terminal mounted inside Caleb's open patrol door. The incident screen was visible. Subject inquiry. Below it, the field marked Search Authority contained no entry. "No consent is recorded," she said. Martin stepped between her and the screen. "The report will be completed after the scene is secure." Simone removed a plain phone from her coat pocket and called the only saved number on the display. "Preserve this encounter." She ended the call. Martin reached toward the supervisor menu on Caleb's terminal. Simone's medication remained beneath the cafe chair. Would you reach for it and risk being labeled resistant, or leave it on the pavement while they decided which policy applied? Sign at the bottom. Chief Martin Voss placed a supplemental statement on the hood of the patrol car and held a black pen above the signature line. Deputy Owen Maddox read the first paragraph. Possible weapon access observed before protective inspection. He looked toward Caleb Rourke. Caleb was photographing Simone Barrett's property where it remained beside the cafe chairs. No warning about a weapon had been spoken. Owen's body camera had recorded every word. I didn't hear him say this. Martin kept the pen extended. The report needs the safety concerns stated clearly. That isn't what happened. Martin folded the top corner of the form over with one thumb. You're not being asked to interpret it. You're confirming the scene. Across the sidewalk, Simone watched Martin's hand cover the creation time printed beneath the case number. She had spent years reading documents designed to hide decisions inside ordinary language. The words were rarely dramatic. That was why they worked. The new incident classification appeared on Caleb's screen. Verbal disturbance. Protective inspection completed. Simone had not shouted. She had not threatened anyone. The entry did not mention the coffee, the discarded identification, or Caleb pulling property from her shoulder. It recorded her questions. Martin told Simone she could leave after the report was completed. He did not provide an estimated time. A local resident approached the curb to ask whether Main Street remained open. Martin answered him immediately, then returned to Simone and said the department was still verifying her conduct. The verification had no named reviewer and no stated endpoint. Inside Juniper Cup, Leah Moreno locked the office door and inserted a blank memory card into the camera console. She selected the exterior feed, the register view, and the time display above the service counter. The export window created a checksum receipt. Leah printed it. The page showed that the original video had not been edited. She did not upload a short clip to social media. She sent the complete file through the secure link attached to the state inspector's preservation request. A minute later, Miles Avery entered through the rear door. He placed his delivery scanner on the desk and opened the cloud account on his phone. His recording showed Caleb striking the drink, placing Simone's identification on the pavement, and pulling the property from her shoulder. A deputy had ordered Miles to stop filming. The command was audible. Leah copied the cloud link onto the export receipt and sent both files together. Outside, Caleb began dictating his narrative into a voice recorder. He said Simone had moved toward her belongings in a manner that created a safety concern. The video showed her standing still. He said she had refused repeated instructions. The recordings contained no clear instruction before the search. Martin had not taken a statement from any witness. Simone listened without interrupting. When Caleb finished, she asked Martin to preserve the original entry history rather than only the completed report. Martin looked at her stained sleeve. That is an internal records matter. A gray sedan stopped beside the curb. Maren Holt stepped out carrying a document envelope and a portable evidence seal. She did not approach Simone first. She handed Martin a preservation order covering the case file, Caleb's recorder, Owen's body camera, dispatch audio, and all supervisor amendments. Martin read the first page. This is a local encounter. It became a state integrity review when your department amended the legal basis after the search. Caleb stopped photographing. Maren connected a forensic reader to the patrol system. The audit trail opened without allowing changes. Search action started. More than 10 minutes later, protective inspection added by supervisor account. Martin called it administrative completion. Maren asked which safety concern had been recorded before the search. He pointed toward Owen's unsigned statement. Owen looked at the form still lying on the hood. Then he removed his body camera. He placed it inside Maren's evidence pouch. No warning was given before the search. Maren sealed the pouch and wrote the time across the adhesive strip. The audio waveform loaded on her tablet. Simone's questions appeared as short, even peaks. Caleb's first reference to officer safety came after her belongings were already on the pavement. Maren locked Caleb's search authority pending review. Only then did she turn towards Simone. Senator Barrett, the original files are preserved. Caleb stared at the audit trail rather than at Simone. One line in the report claimed the safety concern came first. Did you notice which record proved it did not? A red suspension notice rested beneath the windshield wiper of Caleb Rourke's patrol cruiser. His name remained on the shift board inside Ashford Police Department, but the authorization line beside it had been crossed out. He could no longer conduct a property search or interview a witness. He could not access an active complaint or enter an enforcement zone without another officer present. Chief Martin Voss tried to slow everything that followed. He told Maren Holt, The city attorney was unavailable until Monday. He said the complaint should first pass through internal affairs. When Marin asked who supervised that unit, Martin gave her his own title. Simone Barrett sat beside the reception bench while he called 3 offices that had no authority over the state review. Each call ended the same way. Wait for a return call. A white resident entered to challenge a parking citation. A clerk handed him a numbered ticket and directed him to a service window within seconds. Simone had been searched in public. Martin still offered her no release notice, property acknowledgement, or written correction. Marin placed a temporary restriction card on the counter. The state review does not wait for your internal routing. Martin pushed the card back with one finger. We have procedure. You have delay. The preserved records were presented that afternoon to the city administrator and an outside prosecutor. The search began before any safety concern had been stated. Martin's supervisor entry appeared more than 10 minutes later. Caleb's account conflicted with the cafe footage, the independent recording, and Owen Maddox's body camera. No one needed to debate Simone's tone. The sequence settled the issue. The city administrator placed Martin on leave before the meeting ended. His building pass, evidence room key, command credential, and complaint system access card were collected in a plastic tray. Caleb was removed from payroll after the disciplinary hearing. The state certification board suspended his license, then revoked it after reviewing the Ashford encounter and earlier searches carrying the same protective inspection label. The outside prosecutor opened a separate review for unlawful search, assault, false official statements, and misconduct under color of law. Martin's case lasted longer. He kept redirecting questions. He said Caleb's conduct belonged to patrol supervision. He said the altered classification belonged to records administration. He said the delayed complaint belonged to internal affairs. The city commission placed each department chart beside his signature. Every route returned to him. The commission found that Martin had delayed outside review, approved a justification entered after the search, pressured Owen to confirm a false sequence, and kept Caleb in public-facing duties after repeated complaints. Martin was terminated. His supervisory certification was referred to the state board. His decisions were entered into a public disciplinary index that other law enforcement agencies were required to review before hiring him. The consequences did not stop with 2 uniforms. State auditors examined every Ashford search coded as a protective inspection during the previous 2 years. Residents whose cases showed the same timing problem received certified notices. Defense attorneys received the preserved records. Evidence obtained through questionable searches was marked for judicial review. Where no lawful basis remained, prosecutors agreed to dismiss pending charges in petition courts to correct the related records. Owen testified in every reviewed case, carrying his signature. He received protection from retaliation for surrendering the original recording. He also received formal discipline for remaining silent at the curb. He was removed from field training duties until completing an ethics review. His eventual honesty preserved the sequence. It did not erase the minutes when he had watched Simone's belongings remain on the pavement. Simone's disturbance flag was removed from local and state systems. A corrected entry stated that she had committed no offense and had been subjected to an unauthorized property search. The correction was not buried in an internal file. Ashford sent it to every news outlet and public account that had received the original police description. The department's public page displayed the correction for the same length of time as the initial incident notice. Simone's title appeared only after the legality of the encounter had already been decided. The city reimbursed her damaged clothing, replacement medication, broken reading lenses, and legal expenses. It also issued a written property acknowledgement listing every item Caleb had removed from her tote. Simone did not request a ceremony. She requested a system that would function when the next person had no state office, legal training, or inspector waiting nearby. The new search acknowledgement required officers to give each citizen a printed record before ending any property inspection. It listed the incident number, stated authority, officer name, supervisor name, retained items, and an external complaint address. A later explanation could be attached. It could not replace the original entry. Ashford also lost the right to investigate its own search complaints for 2 years. A state compliance officer occupied a small desk inside the station. Quarterly reports listed inspections by reason, outcome, officer, supervisor, and race. Repeated disparities triggered an outside review automatically. 3 months later, Simone returned to Juniper Cup. Leah Moreno placed a fresh drink beside the saucer. Simone paid with 2 bills and waited for her change. No cameras waited outside. No official vehicle occupied the curb. Across Main Street, an older black woman entered the new public intake room, carrying a folder from a traffic stop. A clerk entered the complaint into the state portal. A small printer produced a tracking slip before anyone inside the police department reviewed the woman's name. She checked the number, folded the paper, and placed it inside her purse. For years, Martin had called sending complaints back through his own office proper procedure. That was the frightening part. This story is fictional.